Hello, in this video we're going to talk about proportions. And I'm going to work on two questions. My first question is solve the proportion, and the second question is down below. It's a word problem using proportions. But before I do that, let's look on the right side where I have the definition of what a proportion is. A proportion is a statement that two ratios or rates are equal. So here we have in a box proportion. A proportion states that two ratios are equal. So in math terms, if A over B and C over D are ratios, then A over B equals C over D is a proportion. For example, we have two fractions, 5/6, 10/12, and it's a proportion because they are equal. Because if you notice, if you multiply top and bottom by 2, you do get 10/12. There's also using a cross product to determine whether proportions are true or false. So if you take the cross product, the A times the D, and you do a cross product B times the C, if the cross products are equal, it's said to be true. Otherwise, it is false. So if you look at this example, if you take the 5 times the 12, and your question is, does that equal the 6 times the 10? And if it is, it's true. Well, 5 times 12 is 60, and so is 6 times 10, so it is true. So the first question asks you to solve the proportion for the given variable. And I'm going to use just the fact that I did on the right. I'm going to say, okay, for this to be true, I need to cross these. So I'm going to take 6.6 and I'm going to multiply it by 7.5. That better be equal to the cross product the other way, which is 0.4 times b. If I multiply these together, you can use your calculator or you can do it by hand. You should get 49.5. If you want to see this on the right, I'll take 6.6 times 7.5. First, we just take 66 times 5 and we get 330, right? Because 6 times 5 is 30. 30 plus 3 is 33. Now we're going to take 7 times 66 and erase our previous scratch work. And we get 462. And how did I get that? As 6 times 7 is 2. Put the 4 there. 42 plus 4 is 46. We just add this up. And we get our answer. We have to go 2 decimal places, 1, 2, to the left. That's where we get our 49.5. Now we're going to divide both sides by 0.4. So b would equal 49.5 divided by 0.4. You could just multiply both sides by 10, get 495 over 4. Or, if we're going to do that by hand, again, you could just use your calculator. You can do that by hand. And you can see this is the same thing, because if you move this 1 decimal place and this 1 decimal place, it'd be like saying 4 into 495. So we'll just divide this. That'll be 1. Or 4. Bring down the 9, because that subtracts to nothing. That would be a 2. And 8. Bring down the 1. Or subtract. Bring down the 5. That goes into that 3 times. That'd be 12. Subtract. We have no more to subtract, so we have to put a couple of zeros. That's why the point goes there. 4 goes, and then bring down the 0. 4 goes into 37 times. And finally, bring down the last 0, and that would be a perfect 5. But the question does ask you to, if you look, type in integer decimal round to the nearest tenth. So we have to stop there. So what would be equal to p would be approximately, that stands for approximate, 123.8 8. Why do we get 8? Because we went around to the nearest tenth. We look to the right. If the right is 5 or larger, we add 1 to this. If it's not, we leave it alone. If it was 4 or smaller, we would leave it 123.7. So that is the answer they're expecting. Let's do our second question. An application. A hybrid car averages 106 miles on 12.5 gallons tank of gas. We can make a ratio or a rate out of this. So let's scroll down a little bit. And the ratio would be 103 miles, I'll leave that there, over 12.5 gallons. So every 12.5 gallons, we would go another 103 miles. That's the rate I'm going to use. Second sentence, Manuel is planning to go a 1,290 mile vacation in his hybrid car. So that's how many miles. So we know the miles have to be in the numerator. So that would be 1,290 miles. How many gallons? Oh, that's what we're looking for. How many gallons of gas can he expect to burn? So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cross and get 603x. And I'm going to cross this way, multiply those two, and get 12.5 times 1290. Again, you can just use your calculator and multiply these. But if you want to see it here, we can do it here. So I'm first going to multiply my top number by 5. And I'll get this. Then I'm going to multiply the top number by 2 and get, leaving a space. Now I'm going to multiply, finally, the 1 by the top number, and again leaving a space. I will get this. Adding those together, we get don't forget we have to move the decimal place one place over. So we get 16,125. Now finally, I'm going to divide both sides by 603. And again, you can use your calculator. If you want to see it by hand, you have to take 603 into 16125. And what would you get? You get a 2, since 603 times 2 is 1206. I'll put my 1206 here and subtract. Bring down the 5. And then 603 into 4,065, I think is about 6 cents. That is that. So I forgot to put my 6 there. Subtract. There's nothing more to bring down, so we have to put a point there and a point there with a 0. So we'll bring down a 0, and that should be a 7, since 603 times 7 is 4,200. So let me scroll down just a little bit and put 4221 there and subtract, and that would be a 7. And I really don't even need to subtract that, because if you look at the answer, I'm going to stop there. It asks round to the nearest whole number as needed. So they just really want a whole number. That's the whole number. So again, circle that. That's what they want. If the number to the right is a 5 or larger, we make that a 7. If that was 4 or smaller, then we leave it at 26, because this is closer to 27 than it is to 26. And that's how many gallons he's expected to burn. Hope that helps.